Say, y'all, I got me a question. Why's it gotta be a strong man contest? You know the ones I mean? Where the muscle guys and the big boys try to do some impossible Herculean feats? Well, I figure if my brother Cletus could do it, so could I. Hey everybody, my name is Lacey. I'm 21, and I had to dress like a boy to prove to my daddy I was worth a hoot. See, daddy was always a tough guy. He worked 20 years in steelwork and construction, and before that, he was in the Marines and served overseas. He was kinda a hero around our house. Heck, around the whole town for that matter. We live out in the sticks, and for the past 7 years, Daddy's been hosting the strong man competition in these parts. And for the last 3 years in a row before that, Daddy won the whole dang competition. I come from a family of muscleheads, but Daddy's always treated me differently. He used to tell my brothers not to roughhouse with me, but I didn't like no special treatment. I could hold my own as good as any of them. One day, I followed Cletus to the gym, and I saw him working out with Daddy, and I decided I was gonna train. And if they didn't want to do it with me, I would do it on my own. At dinner, Daddy would talk to Cletus like he was going to be the heir to his strong man throne. But I knew that I might just take that throne from under him. And I started working out and growing muscles. But it was causing some trouble with my boyfriend, Justin. He agreed with Daddy that I might hurt myself trying to compete among these strong men. Well, that got me in a horn-tossing mood. I didn't like nobody telling me I couldn't do something. But this whole small town seemed to be against me. I mean, just about all the folks around here thought I was crazier than a bull bat. But for me, I wanted to show that everybody had it backwards, and there weren't nothing I couldn't tackle. Justin started getting intimidated by my muscles, and before I knew it, he was making up some excuse to not go out, or so I thought. Ooh, that just made me madder than a wet hen, and made me want to work out harder, grow my muscles twice as hard. About the only one who didn't treat me like some kind of weirdo or something was Cletus. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was talking noise all up and down the street. That boy's got himself a 10-gallon mouth, and he was using it. Telling me I was lucky I couldn't enter because they would destroy me. The strongman competition had 3 parts. The deadlift, the phone book tear, and the human tractor pull. And I was in the mind to master them all. I now had this extreme female muscle growth that dwarfed most of the fellas in town. I told Daddy I wanted to compete. But he was chewing his bit, saying I could get hurt myself, and that he didn't want me or any other lady in the competition. He said it was final, but I weren't gonna let that stop me. Well, that got us into arguing about the military again, and I felt like I just couldn't win with my dad. I decided that I would compete as a guy if he wouldn't let me compete as a woman. I started to study the way guys walked and talked. I tried deepening my voice, and of course, I altered my wardrobe. I got myself a crew cut and had a professional beard wig made with my hair so it all looked natural-like. Once I put on the beard, I was sure I could pass. Before I tried to fool my dad, though, I decided I ought to test out the integrity of the disguise. So I went into town and found some old dive bar to slaughter into. I was pretty sure nobody could tell. Most people saw my muscles first anyhow. The disguise seemed to be working just fine. But then the acid test wandered in. Ooh, it was Justin and his buddies looking to knock a few back. I figured if Justin couldn't tell it was me, I could certainly fool Daddy and Cletus and everyone around the competition. So I made my way over to those guys and started buying a few rounds. For long, I ended up playing a game of darts with Justin. He couldn't tell it was me, but he was looking at me sideways. I asked if he wanted to go to the honky-tonk and chase some skirts around. I was curious what he was gonna say. And I spit out my beer when he said he kinda had a girlfriend. What you mean you kinda have a girlfriend? I asked. He started to yak about how he missed me and how he was hoping we might get back together. But when I asked him what the problem was exactly, he started to get real quiet. I realized that Justin was embarrassed. But if he couldn't acknowledge or be proud of me, then I just didn't see how we would have much of a future. I couldn't let other people's ideas keep me from my goals. And I set my sights on winning the whole dang contest. I signed up online with the name Tex, and soon victory will be mine. But I had to be at my best. I worked with sandbags and atlas stones. I did straps and made sure my forearms were as close to steel as I could get them. I ate a monster protein diet. After a workout, I'd eat 400 grams of steak, 300 grams of pasta, and about 250 grams of veggies. Things were tough being a guy like me in a town like that. Most girls were thin as a fiddle strong, but not me. There were a lot of world ideas about what I was supposed to be, but my body didn't really care about all that nonsense. Muscles grew naturally on top of my body like anybody else's, and that's what I came to respect. The day of competition was upon us, and I put on my disguise and signed in. I saw Cletus with Daddy looking all sad, like the cheese fell off his cracker because he thought I ought to be there to cheer Cletus on. But I didn't want to be no cheerleader. I was going to be a champion, even if I had to cross-dress to do it. Cletus and I weighed in at the same class, and I knew he would probably be my toughest opponent. First up was the phone bear tear, which I could usually do successfully, but I was pretty nervous that morning. I watched Cletus strain, but after his face turned about 4 shades of purple, he ripped that mother right in half. I had to block out all the sounds of everybody watching. I had to focus inside. That's the only place that anything can be solved. I placed my hand on the book and aimed for the perfect V. I pulled with all my strength. Whew, the mighty book was stubborn. I imagined it filled with all the names of the town folk. And then I imagined their street names and numbers, and I imagined all their opinions and what they would do if they found out I was a lady underneath this beard. Suddenly, I felt it give, and the book tore like tissue. My tear got me 3 points more than Cletus. But after the dead weight lift, I got knocked back 5 points, and I was now trailing him by 2. It was up to the tractor pull, which worked more like a race. First glance gets 10 points, second place gets 8 points, and third place gets 5 points. I couldn't have been more nervous. But then, Justin found me before the competition. He had roses and something important to tell me. He figured it was me right after that night at the bar. And after thinking on it, Justin said I should be myself and not embarrassed in nothing. He said he ain't anymore, and he kissed me, wishing me luck. I strapped myself into the harness, and I dug myself into the grove of the field track. When they popped off that rifle, all the competitors strained. We stood in line, not moving, just trading groans. Finally, I felt give, and the tractor was moving. All I had to do was keep the momentum going. My muscles were burning, my will was straining, and we were taking the lead. I looked over and I could see Cletus pushing forward and Daddy cheering for him. I had to want it more, I thought, and I took the lead again. But then I lost it. We were neck and neck. Just as we were making the final corner, my beard slid off, and I felt the cool breeze on my face. Cletus recognized me first. Then I started to hear the murmurs from the crowd. But I was ahead. I was winning. Cletus was behind me, just a couple more feet to go. At the last moment, I saw Daddy on his feet. I could tell he recognized me by the way he was sucking at his teeth and shaking his head. But I couldn't let myself get distracted and hunkered down. I pulled that old tractor across the lines to take first place. And I hadn't been as excited since I first hit the cow. I won. I beat Cletus. I was the champion. I remember Daddy telling Cletus how proud he would be to hand him the championship trophy someday. I was hoping he would be just as proud of me. It had been Daddy's responsibility to announce the winner. But the way he was looking at me, I was worried he might just ban me for life or something. Today, something unprecedented has happened, Daddy said, his voice booming through the crowd. Today, I am proud to award this year's championship to the first woman ever to win the strongman competition, to my daughter. He hugged me and whispered how proud he was of me. He said he was afraid to let me go, but he can't deny the strength I have now. He said he thought the Marines would be lucky to have a soldier like me, and he gave me his blessing. Cletus held out his hand and said there weren't nobody he'd rather lose to, despite all the sass he was talking. I learned that day that no matter what people tell you, there's nothing you can't do if you set your mind to it. They say that goals are like dreams, but with deadlines. So never stop striving for the impossible. And remember, when there's a will, there's a way. What are your dreams? Have they become goals yet? Tell us about it in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.